What will we do with this moment? How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we, the people, choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing!
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
The sweet emotion raining all over me.
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again.
Now we have a projection to make in Wisconsin.
Yes, we can.
NBC News projecting that Wisconsin was won by Donald Trump, and therefore, as you see on your screen, we are now projecting that the next president of the United States is Donald Trump.
He will reclaim the White House. The 45th president of the United States will become the 47th president of the United States.
CBS News now projects that Donald Trump is the winner in Wisconsin. That gives him the number of electoral votes he needs to become the 47th president of the United States. This is an incredible moment in American history.
It is now official. CNN projects that Donald Trump has been elected president, defeating Vice President Kamala Harris and making a political comeback unlike any in modern American politics.
The Fox News decision desk can now officially project that Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States.
The former president's comeback will be complete with a win in Wisconsin, a state that he narrowly lost 4 years ago. He is now the second president in U.S. history to win non-consecutive terms. The first was Grover Cleveland in the late 1800s. Senator J.D. Vance will become the 50th vice president of the United States.
Frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And so I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day, I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body. I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have. This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again. Oh, we're gonna...
That's right, my friends. We are going to make America great again, and that is going to start by healing some of the divide that we've witnessed over the past years. And I am thankful, and by the grace of God, that Donald J. Trump has been elected the 47th president of the United States of America. The decision desk here at the Political Badass podcast was predicting a electoral college victory of 323. Sweep of the president's House and Senate, and a win of the popular votes. We got all of it except for Minnesota, which we barely lost. We only lost New Jersey by about 4 points. That means that this governor election coming up in 25 is one of the most important elections in New Jersey's history. And speaking of New Jersey's history, I have a man here with me in the studio that's part of New Jersey's history. His name is Justin Murphy. And Justin, he ran for United States Senate in the primary this year, and I have him live in studio. Say hello. Say hello, Justin.
Good morning, Mr. Eric and your audience. How's everything?
Everything's going great. We have a new lease on freedom, and we're here to celebrate that. And we're also here to recognize that things have been moving like a locomotive at 1,000 miles per hour with about 1 million train cars on it. And it's going in the wrong direction. And although Donald J. Trump has been elected, you know, we've got to make it to January 20th when he's going to erect a temporary desk on the steps of Congress and start signing executive orders, starting with number 1, close the border. Okay. DEI. I'm all for DEI. Deport every illegal. Do we have to deport every single illegal? People that have families and been here for a generation? No, but we need to start with the violent criminals, and then the criminals and the people that don't belong here. We just simply cannot afford it. Right, Justin? I mean, it's just insane what we've witnessed. I mean, they say 10 million people have gotten in here throughout this administration of Harris and Biden, but I would say it's more like 20 million. It doesn't take a lot to investigate. You know, you go check it out on, you know, ICE's site or on Department of Homeland Security, which is run by Alejandro Mayorkas, who is a criminal. He did a great job, actually, in his position, if you measure by what he was supposed to do and what he did, because he did exactly what he was hired to do by this administration, did he not? Are you seeing any adverse impact here in New Jersey from illegal immigration?
It affects every community, Eric, because it affects every state. Every state is now a border state. I mean, one of the reasons is not only did you have millions of illegal immigrants coming into the country, but under the Biden-Harris administration, the Border Patrol and ICE, they were instructed to facilitate it, take them in, rush through some paperwork, and then turn them loose into the country. Not to mention the flights. They flew hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants into this country from a foreign country, and just at 2:00 in the morning, dropped them off anywhere.
You know, they weren't
insane.
You know, and you read about
Really
that
insane.
in particular. It's crazy because they said, "Don't worry, America, we're not paying for those flights, right? The illegals have to pay for them." You know how they paid for them? They paid for them with loans given to them by the United States of America that are forgivable.
And not
so we paid it.
Who's paying for it? But like, where are you putting them? Who's deciding where they go? What do they do when they get there? Look at the town in Ohio. The number of illegal immigrants they dumped in there over the course of a year or two almost was what? At least half of that city's population.
Drive down
It
Route
was
70.
insane.
Drive down Route 73. I mean, in our towns, and look at the hotels and what's going on. I mean, I had friends that worked at Fort Dix after the horrific Afghanistan withdrawal.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they housed 40,000
Yes, they
Afghanis
did.
at Fort Dix,
Yes.
and they had set up public schooling for them where the parents of those children could walk right into school, make sure that those kids are getting exactly what they need out of the school system here in America. And as a parent, I can tell you that same is not true for people that have been here for generations.
40,000. I mean, Eric, that's another Marlton. That's another Mount Laurel. That exceeds the population of Medford. I mean, where are all these people? Where are they going? Where are they living? How are they supporting themselves? Well, we know that we're paying for it. But where do you physically, geographically put these people?
You put them in places where really other people that needed things before they got here
Ah.
were supposed to stay, like our veterans.
Well,
A homeless veteran in America. It's Veterans Day weekend.
Tomorrow,
Okay,
yes,
right.
Veterans Day.
And today is the anniversary of celebration of the Marine Corps' founding.
Happy birthday, U.S. Marine Corps.
Happy birthday, and thank you to all those who have served or are serving in our military. We have the utmost respect for you. We do know that you've been struggling with the wokeness that's ensued in every institution that we have, and we are hopeful and prayerful that those things will change and change quickly, as Donald J. Trump has promised us, and I believe wholeheartedly that he is going to deliver on those promises. Justin, one of the things that impressed me most was your willingness to stand up and to run for elected office as far as the United States Senate goes.
Yes.
I know what it takes to run as a candidate, even as a school board member. Very contentious. You have to give up a lot in your private life to run for any sort of office, but United States Senate is a big role and a big, there's only 2 of them from here, right? And 100 people, basically very few people decide the fate of many, and you do hear people when they're running for Senate say, I'm going to represent New Jersey. But really, when you get to the Senate, you realize, right, that you're representing all of America with basically, 1% of the vote for all these decisions that are being made on behalf of 330 million, hardworking hardworking Americans.
That is correct.
I would love to hear a little bit about your experiences with not just the local New Jersey politics, but the New Jersey politics as a whole in New Jersey. We lost this race for president by what, 4.5%?
I think about 4 or 5 points. Yeah, I think like 5.
And I'm a numbers person. I mean, I've been looking at voting statistics for quite a while now, from a common sense approach. I consider myself to be an independent thinker. I actually never attended college. I was never taught how to think. Or what to think. I've been taught how to think, and I have those skills, and I do well with them. But I was never really taught how to think, and I'm very thankful for that disconnect that I have. But when you look at these numbers, in 2020 we had a 100% mail-in ballot race due to COVID, the manufactured crisis, the China virus, whatever you want to call it.
Disaster.
But the numbers for Trump back then were way lower than what they were in this election. And it just goes to show you the wake up call that we've all heard. But tell me a little bit about, your experiences running in New Jersey for politics. What was your experience like?
Well, a lot. I mean, Eric, my experience really goes back to I was involved in politics in New Jersey since 1988. When I got out of the Navy, I started studying political science at Glassboro State College, and then it morphed into Rowan University. And at that time, I earned a political science degree. And I started local. I did my internship for Congressman Jim Saxton. I was Burlington County Young Republicans Vice President. I was county committee. I worked on everybody's campaign, from Brett Schundler to Bobby Franks to Doug Forrester to Christy Whitman, to all the local and county people in Burlington County that were staples of Burlington County politics. I was elected myself in 2000, deputy mayor of Tabernacle, and served on the township committee there. I ran for Congress twice in 08 and 10. Viably for this CD3 Republican nomination. And then again, this past year, as you mentioned, in 2024, as a candidate in the Republican primary for U.S. Senate. And I've seen a lot of changes over that time. Back when I began in the 90s, New Jersey was a safely sound Republican state, but it was a moderate Republican state, but it was Republican. Burlington County, we had a congressional delegation majority Republican. We had, in the 90s, people seem to forget about this. In the 1990s, we had a Republican governor. It was Christy Whitman, obviously moderate, different part of the wing, but she was a Republican governor. And we had a Republican state Senate and a Republican state assembly in the 90s. Yeah. And in addition to that, we had a 7-6 Republican majority of our congressional delegation. And then what has happened in that time that I've, was always been involved in, there was a major shift in our state's political demographics. We had just a pouring in of people from Philadelphia, New York and Philly suburbs, and it literally changed the political demographics of this state. And so what I've learned is that, we're obviously, even Burlington County now, we're definitely a hard blue state. We actually saw the number of registered Democrats in this state exceed the number of registered Republicans by almost 1 million.
It's an insane number.
Literally. I mean, it's come down a little bit from that now, but that was the big hurdle. Like between the Obama administration and between the Bernie Sanders phenomena, Democrat registration just went through the roof. And our party apparatus really at the county and state level had been really lacking, to use a kind word, about how to counter that. So we never did. Running in the primary, we got a real good look at how the county organizations run their conventions, and they all do it different. They all have different rules and of how they give their county line and county support. But I will share with you and your audience, Eric, one of the things that jumped out at me from running in 2024,
Right.
okay, was that two things. One, the good news is right now we have more registered Republicans in New Jersey than we've had at any time in the history of this state and the history of our country. We've got about 1.5 million.
Beautiful.
Okay. The problem is in the primary of June of 24, that I was a candidate in for U.S. Senate, we had a 20% turnout.
I know that 20% is no bueno. It's not going to get us near the finish line. It's not going to get us across much.
That means 1 million registered Republicans sat home for the June 4th primary. People would ask me all the time, can you win? I said, yes, because the voters are out there. You got to corral them. You're herding cats. You got to get to them. You need your exposure. And this is why county lines are pretty coveted. All that's changing now with the lawsuit that Andy Kim brought, coupled with Republican Party has 6 or 7 new chairmen and chairwomen throughout the state. So you're seeing a lot of change right now. You're seeing a lot of change, and how that shakes out is really anybody's guess. But I can tell you this, change is underway.
It's good to hear the change is underway. I got involved in trying to effectuate change in my county.
You did? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I was appointed to the county committee back in 2022.
Mhm.
I had read a book by Dan Schultz. He's an activist. He's in Arizona. He talks about precinct strategy and just like 240,000 Republican committee seats across the country that are
Mhm.
vacant. It's roughly 50-50 moderate versus America First membership on those committees. And if we could take and fill, 100% of the remaining vacant seats, that we can effectuate change instead of just sitting by the wayside, not doing things to activate constituents to vote and things like you're talking about with our hideous 20% turnout.
Mm.
And when I was actually appointed by the existing chairman in Camden County at the time. And he was originally a Tea Party guy, right? So these are people that
Tom Crone was.
Yeah.
Wow. Didn't know that.
There was a lot of offshoots going on, I guess. And,
Cool.
but typically, though, I think that the type of Tea Party guys these were people that would normally vote Democrat and were,
Mhm.
looking to make a change in the Republican Party. But it's not a personal thing whatsoever. This is just about reading a report card. When your kid gets bad grades, you have to do something about it to change it. Otherwise, it's going to continue down the path.
Right.
And that report card I always considered was the election results, because at the end of the day, what is a party? What's a political party? It's an election machine.
Mhm.
That's what it's all about. It's about
Mhm.
elections, about getting people elected to every single type of seat, whether it's school board, fire commissioner, county commissioner, state legislature, governor, Senate, United States Congress, and ultimately the president. And in Camden County, I saw that we had 0 representation, right? 0.
This is a tough
So
county.
it's like no taxation without representation, right? I
Mhm.
mean, it's time for the revolution. Let's
Yeah.
go spill some tea.
Well, here, your previous chairman, Rick D. Michelle.
Yes.
Okay. His wife used to work for George Norcross at TD Bank or TD Insurance or something. So
Right.
that kind of tells you what.
It's telling, but I will tell you that Mr. D. Michelle had people being elected. I mean, John
Yeah.
Runyon was elected to Congress during his term.
Yeah, I was his opponent in 2010.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
So, but I mean, things were happening. We were winning 5, 6, 7 seats in the local districts for committees. At that time when D. Michelle, and actually Tom Crone was decrying for D. Michelle to resign at that time. So I took Tom's words and his public posts that he made at the time to news agencies, and I went and sat down with him. I didn't want to come at him publicly. I'm not trying to divide the party here.
Right.
But I'm like, Tom, listen, I think it's just time to step aside. Our results are lackluster at best, and horrific at worst.
Yeah.
We have nobody elected. Why don't we just allow a new leader to emerge, take step aside, make an announcement. And that way you're not going to have to face the public outcry that you gave to D. Michelle. And I brought the articles with me, from that era. And I said, Tom, this guy, you were telling him that he should resign, and he had 7 people, win seats during his time as the county chair. And he basically got angry at me. It was a nice conversation up until that point, and that's okay. I understand. I hurt his feelings. I don't really have feelings. I mean, I joke around with Tina, my future wife, and I say, look, don't hurt my feeling, in the singular. I mean, I might have one. I mean, I've been pretty much desensitized because what matters matters. And, my feelings really don't, nor do anybody's in the public arena. Right. So we found Kimberly Stewart, who we ended up getting elected as county chair in the reorg meeting in July, and things have turned around drastically. I mean, we filled seats. I filled 20 here in Voorhees.
Yeah, that's
we never had a committee here.
That's incredible.
Are we active yet? No. Okay. I've got a lot of work to do. I have to make the commitment to go out and do the socializing and all the stuff that, that me personally, I could live without, but what I can't live without is representation. So I'm willing to make changes in my lifestyle and what I view as within my wheelhouse to effectuate change. But we made a big change here in Camden County. But when we look at the overall vote tallies for the state of New Jersey, like I said, we're, about 4% off on the presidential. I was disappointed in the voter turnout and the votes for our U.S. Senate seat. The person that ended up winning the primary through various methods that he was able to represent us on the ballot. I knew that he would not win that race. I knew that Andy Kim would win that race. I knew it. I didn't say it out loud because I wanted to the company line, the party line. But I didn't see a path really to his victory. And unfortunately, even here in Camden County, I think he got about 76,000 votes, whereas President Trump got 80,000. So, 4,000 undervotes on 80. It's like a 5% undervote. It just goes to tell you that people weren't convinced that that Bashaw had our best interests.
Trump did outperform him statewide. There's no doubt.
Right. I mean, how would we explain that? What do you think? What do you think was the cause of that? We were briefly talking about his closing argument. That was one, right? Tell me what you were saying earlier about that.
I mean, I met Curtis. Obviously, I was one of his opponents in the primary. That primary, Eric, started with 11 candidates.
Yeah.
And 7 dropped out. And I don't recall in my time in politics that more candidates dropped out of a race than stayed in. But we wound up with 4. Myself, Albert Herschel, Curtis Bashaw, and Christine Glassner from Morris County up north.
She ultimately got President Trump's endorsement, right?
She
late
did.
In the game.
In May. Yeah, he announced at the Wildwood rally down on the beach that he was endorsing Christine Glassner. That's all I think there was 2 things for Trump to do: endorse her or sit on the sidelines.
Right.
And the reason is Christine's husband was a Trump campaign manager at some point. So she certainly had a personal road to him. And, she wound up getting his endorsement, didn't help her. She wound up losing. Curtis, as far as the primary, we were together a lot. We spoke at a lot of the same events. We were together at the different conventions and county conventions, and I heard him speak often and hit the right chords. He talked about immigration and inflation and business and the business climate and all of that. But his after the primary, I think he hibernated a little bit,
right?
And we didn't
some coattails, basically.
We didn't see or hear from him, and I think lacked energy. That the campaign was not on fire. He lacked energy, he lacked focus, and I think he lacked a message. He lacking a message at this juncture was like a bad strategy. I think he needed to work on relations with the conservative base a little bit, as I would have to do with moderates. I mean,
right.
Whoever you are, but I just think he came up short. He underperformed compared to Trump, and the opportunity was really here in this state. And I'll tell you why, Eric. If you look at what happened in 2020, we in New Jersey, Joe Biden got 2.3 million votes in 2020.
Right.
Donald Trump got 1.8 million. Now, 1.8 is pretty good considering nobody campaigned for him and he didn't come here, didn't spend any money here, and took no advertising here. So, but we lost by 500,000 votes.
Right.
Now, I figured this election we were going to move 200,000 or 300,000 in our favor, and we did. The problem is that more of those. The reason we lost by 14 points in 2020. The reason we only lost by 5 points and seem to have picked up a lot of ground is because Democrats lost votes. We didn't necessarily gain a whole lot. If all of those votes they lost came into our column, we would have won this state. But that did not happen. We had Democrat voters just fall off.
I can imagine why Democrat voters would fall off.
Would.
But that's an opportunity for us to go and scoop them up.
Eric, I spoke every time I spoke. I would tell people, we run around the state and country and tell everybody what's wrong. They won't disagree with us, But until we inspire them to step into our column, until we inspire them with big ideas, until we inspire them as a party with a vision that they can connect with and resonate with them, okay, we're not going to win those voters because they can grudgingly and disgruntled vote Democrat. They can sit home or they can vote for a third party. They don't have to, by default, come into the Republican column. And that is exactly what happened. They did not vote for Democrats, but they didn't come into our column in the numbers we needed. So as a party, that tells me the signal was sent by the political market. We need a better job on messaging and connecting and resonating.
Messaging is a key factor. I mean,
Absolutely.
we talked about the Republican platform. We know what it is nationally. I mean, I looked at the Republican Party's platform prior to the primaries and it was antiquated. You know, it was probably about 15 years old at that point. But Donald Trump came right in and rewrote them. I mean, those are the MAGA, Make America Great Again agenda. And I think it's very simple. And I mean, if you ask most voters, what is the Republican Party agenda, they're not going to be able to answer it.
They would look at you like you're crazy.
I know what the agenda is.
I do too, but it does. I mean, you would, and it's not funny. We talked about it earlier, but somebody would say, "Oh, they're anti-trans, they're xenophobic, they're anti-woman, they're racist." I mean, because that's the continual drum beating from the left, and we don't do an effective enough job of countering that.
Listen, there's organizations that have popped up across the country, Gays Against Grooming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I've been using the term grooming for a long time. People don't like it. I've been yelled at, been threatened with cease and desist letters and stuff. But truthfully, if there's an adult talking to a child about sex, sexuality, or gender, and the parent doesn't know that person, that's grooming.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, parents' rights are
also illegal.
The rule of law. I mean, totally illegal. They don't look at it as legal. They look at it as being supportive and kumbaya. I'm not into that.
No,
you talk to my kid about that, you're going to have a serious problem with Eric Simpkin. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Anywhere where my kids went, they knew that. They took care of my kids. So my kids went to Marlton schools, which have been degraded by a bunch of these radical school board members, like everywhere else.
You have to win elections.
You have to win elections.
School board, the president. You got to win
elections.
Win them.
Why didn't we win them? You're right. The messaging sucks. Okay. It has sucked for a long time, but listen, that's okay. That was yesterday. We are at a new dawn of freedom right now. Let freedom ring. And how does it ring? It's by communicating information. And that information is easy to obtain. By the way, when I ran for school board here in Voorhees Township, I was starting to tell you, I had a woman from the town stand up. She shouldn't have been able to disparage me like this at a public meeting. It's really illegal. But she got up and she said, she says Eric is a white supremacist, a Christian nationalist, happened to be Jewish. All these things.
You don't fit the bill very well.
It didn't really bother me because I really knew I was doing a good job because I was over the target or at the target, right?
That's right.
But the messaging needs to be clear. I mean, so they said I'm transphobic. Is what made me think of this. I'm not transphobic. I just don't want children being talked about all day in every single class, math, reading, science, social studies, English, about trans ideology.
Correct.
Because it's like a 0.003% of the population might truly have some sort of gender dysphoria, but it's not 20% like what we're seeing in public schools right now. It's really pathetic. So I went and got endorsed by Trans Against Groomers, and this woman named Sarah Higdon. She's transsexual. She had the surgery at 25 years old.
Yeah, 25.
Okay. She served in our military prior to that. And she decided at some point that she did suffer from gender dysphoria and she had the surgery and she is a woman as far as appearance is concerned. I mean, her biology didn't change. She knows that. She knows that molecularly and DNA wise,
you don't change your chromosome.
You can't change that. You can't just go in there and change one. I mean, they try to with mRNA vaccines that they push on us, to change our genetic makeup, but it's not working as well as they want. I mean, they are recommending you get your COVID vaccine with your flu vaccine.
No, thank you.
I've never taken either.
Neither have I. You're not sticking that thing in me.
I don't get sick. So, there's some people that have other types of issues. They feel they want to do it. Freedom of choice. I'm all about that on that regard.
And you're not sticking that jab in me. That's for sure. And that was, I mean, Eric, when you look at mRNA, I thought with that particular issue that the group that would be out front and screaming "my choice, my body" would be, the pro-choice crowd. But we didn't hear them. We didn't see them. They were no-shows. But just on a side note, but going back to your point about Camden County, and I mentioned in my earlier spiel that, you know, there are about 6 or 7 counties in New Jersey right now that have new chairman and new chairwoman. Again, this is something I've never seen. I've been involved since 1988. I've never seen this number of changes in chairmanships for the Republican Party in one reorg cycle.
It's amazing.
This summer of 24. You know, I've had the Kim Stewart, fantastic. Pat Johnson in Mercer County, fantastic. What a guy. He's been building Union County up for years. I think his name is Carlos. I met him.
Carlos Santos, great guy.
Yeah,
he hustled that position for 4 years.
Yes, I worked for years to get the changes needed.
He had buses ready to go for his reorg, 7 buses. You know, I think he appointed 350 members to his committee.
And then you got Adam Wingate in Gloucester. They're all doing good things. And I know Somerset has a new chairman. I've not met who that person is, but you're seeing the ground up. You're seeing this ground up right now. So what we do need is we need the top down to meet the ground up halfway, because we can't do it with just one. We need the statewide leadership, and right now, sadly, I don't think it's there. The New Jersey, yes, we cut the loss from 14 points to 5, but that's because Democrats lost votes. It's not so much that we gained them, and until we get into the mode that we're gaining votes, then we can overcome that 800 or 900 or maybe even 1 million vote registered voter deficit that we have. The other thing too, Eric, is like if you look at New Jersey politics, and I spoke to We're All Small Republican Club about 2 weeks ago, and I said there is good news, because everywhere you see this upward surge of registration of Republican voters, we have now the most ever in New Jersey's history registered Republicans. It's like 1.4, 1.5 million. Okay, that is enough to win every statewide race except for president. We can win governor and lieutenant governor. We can win Senate races and certainly our House races and in congressional districts. We now have enough. We're still outnumbered wildly, but that's just on Republicans alone. There are enough voters there. Now it's get organized, get a message, get good candidates. There's still more to do than just registering somebody. You've got to go. It's the whole 9 yards.
Well, I mean, plus you got more, unaffiliated voters than you do Republicans.
And you always get some
Democrats,
of those too,
right?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
So that said, I mean, the messaging has to become much more clear, and that is, to get out the vote, to get people activated. There are several apparatuses that exist. Turning Point USA, I think Charlie Kirk has done an unbelievable job.
Young people
nationwide. I mean, my daughter attends Rutgers. She heard that he was there and had an unbelievable response up at Rutgers in New Brunswick, which is a pretty radical state school. She couldn't go to her classes for finals at the end of last year because of all the Free Palestine and pro-terrorism that was going on. We'll save that for another broadcast, but so these apparatus, they exist. They came up with apps where you can contact the 15 most closest people to your proximity, talk to them, send out the messaging. But what is the messaging? It has to be unified, and we need those definitions, because definitions of a lot of words have changed over the last several years or even decades, right? Partially because of our public education system being totally polluted with radical ideology that's being forced and perpetuated on our children. I will tell you that as hard as I work to make sure that my children understood truth and fact, in my household as a divorced father, which made it even harder to do. And look at our divorce rates, probably north of 70%, right? So you got a lot of dads not in the households, right?
Too high.
But I communicate very well with my children. My children love and respect me. We talk every single day, no matter if they're here or not here. We have a clear understanding of right and wrong in my household, of God, of family, and country. And those are the 3 pillars of what I call the traditional American family that was under attack under this regime that we just got out from under. So I'm super excited about it. But I am also super excited to get out the vote in New Jersey, Camden County, Burlington County, whatever county you're in. You need to just start taking action. If you're not sure where your local Republican committee or club is, you could certainly go to my website, ericsimkin.com, ericsimkin.com. Send me a message. I'll connect you with a local leader here that'll bring you into the party and welcome you with open arms, regardless of really who you voted for in the past, Democrats, unaffiliated, and Republicans. We just all need to unify under a similar message. And no, when you have a big tent like that, not everyone's going to get along and agree on everything. I understand.
No doubt.
Right?
It's the staple of politics. Always friction.
It is. There's a lot of friction. I'm not really about having that friction with other constituents, though. I go after leadership to effectuate change the way I do it. That's why I take a different route in politics than running for public office themselves. I want to get involved with the people who are deciding who's going to run for public office. And that was the role that I've decided to take and stick to. And so far, so good. You know, like I said, we're making changes here in New Jersey. It's going to take a lot of effort, though. It's not, there's no free lunch.
It'll take some time for sure. I would always tell people too on the, be patient, be persistent and be patient. When water cuts through a rock, it does so slowly over a period of time. It doesn't just, quick punch through. And that's, and there's, I always believe the longer it takes to build a castle, the longer it takes to tear it down.
I agree 1,000%. And speaking of which, I mean, they only had a few years to build this castle that we were living under in this regime. So it won't take long to tear it down. I mean, the first thing personally, I think if we can get it to go, would be DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. I know it's not going to happen. We talked about that. That's partially on a statewide basis. We still have elected leaders here in New Jersey that are pro DEI. I couldn't be more against it. I think it's really, brought a lot of race issues, racism issues.
It works. It's conjunction with the CRT, critical race theory, and it's all based on race, Marxism, redistribution, class warfare. Same garbage from the left.
So they wanted us to have class warfare really, really badly. There's only one problem. There's a lot of people in America that still praise and live under the idea of capitalism.
Yeah.
Right?
Thankfully, we found a lot of them made their way to the polls
That's
last
really
week.
what this difference is. Capitalism.
Yeah.
I mean, some people call it socialism. I just call it all generally. I mean, Marxism, socialism, communism to me. I mean, ultimately, they end at the same place. Communism, they're going to come and force control, and take over power that way. So that's really the difference between communism and socialism in my mind. But the ideas and principles that we've seen are 100% anti-capitalist. I mean, that's why merit has no value anymore, or hasn't had value. That's going to change. But like I said, we have to have some patience here, because although President Trump was elected November 5th, we've got to make it to January 20th, and we have to stop the locomotive from the direction it's been going, and it is going to take some time to slow it down, turn it around, and get it spinning in the right direction.
No question.
Right.
No question.
So
patience will have to be part of the mix.
And immigration, I do again want to touch on. I do think that was the largest issue that would divide voters. I mean, what else is there? It's like they talk about Elon Musk. He's saying that he's going to come in and be able to cut $2 trillion out of the budget. I say we could do that easily in a day. Because if you take 20 million illegals times $100,000 a piece, because I know that's what it costs to take in a family, that has nothing, and give them everything that their neighbors are going to have here in America, it's $100,000 a person. It really is. I mean, I've done the math every which way but sideways, and I finally started hearing those numbers coming out in the media, and I was like, I told you so. But $100,000 times 20 million, that's your magic number, 2 trillion right there. I mean, and then you cut the waste that they were going to spend on the other 1.8 trillion, get rid of the Green New Deal. Next thing you know, you got 5-6 trillion cut, and then we start drill and start getting that gold underneath our feet and get it out into our cars, into our electric grids, which are really maxed out here. I mean, we can't handle any more wind and solar. We don't have the capacity to put it in. But I did see something about a no offshore wind mandate coming right, almost day one. I'm very anxious to see what the day one cuts are. I think they're going to be massive. I mean, if you remember back to Biden's first day, I mean, the first thing he did was cut the pipeline here right in Pennsylvania,
the first thing you
and then authorize Nord Stream to continue its birth. So we've been living an opposite day for a long time. And I really was at the end of my line. I mean, I didn't know where I was going to go. I was starting to call realtors in Argentina and Hungary, to be honest with you, because if we didn't win this election, I think that's where freedom would have endured.
Yeah, there's nowhere else to go. I mean,
there is nowhere else to go. This is the last island of hope.
This is it. Last best hope for humankind. And it's
and so why do people want to change it so badly to make it not the last? It's really the globalists. It's really the I mean, we know what it is. United Nations, WHO, WEF, the WEF it was trying to, I mean, Klaus Schwab says it out loud, or, when he was chairman, he said, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And owning nothing is the 100% number one item on the Communist Manifesto.
That is correct.
I mean, you take away property, then people don't fight with each other. Yeah. That's really what it's about.
You take away property. I mean, if you don't own your own home and your land, who does? Blackstreet. Or BlackRock and State Street, all the others, and really we've been influenced to believe that that's an okay thing. And where are we being influenced from?
I can assure you that anybody that's a TikToker or a YouTuber
Mhm.
that's pushing a radical agenda, I mean, you know that NATO hired Taylor Swift. I mean, she's on their payroll. Where's all the money come from? It doesn't come from Coca-Cola and McDonald's advertising on their sites. Okay, it's coming from nefarious places that have a stake in this agenda and they want to perpetuate it. And we, like, you know, drones, some of us have been just watching this happen. Oh, entertainment, NFL. I don't watch any professional sports. I really don't. I believe they've all gone globalist. I mean, that's just me. I'm able to spend more time on politics and the fight, you know. But the type of things that we've seen socially, they tried to press social change so quickly and so hard that a lot of us just said, "Hey, we need to put on the brakes here," right?
And the reason they did that is they felt confident they could get away with it. If they knew for certain that the outcome would be what we saw last week with Trump winning all 7 battlegrounds, taking a majority of the popular vote, first time a Republican president's done that in 16 years, you know, they would have gone back to the let's be undercover, couth, incremental, slow, let's frog in boiling water mode. You know,
Well, that's what you get in a Bush
yeah.
versus Gore campaign, you know, where no matter who wins that election, they can control either one.
Yeah.
You know, that's the problem right there. Here's where we hit the little stump. Trump can't be controlled. He doesn't have an interest besides the American people's, and he can't be bought and paid for by anybody else because he's already paid for himself.
Eric, the reason he won the 2016 election, I tell people, is a number of factors, but the most potent was that he had he had an easy to convey message to hear, internalize, and understand, and that is that I'm a political outsider.
Right.
My opponent, Hillary Clinton, is a career politician. And that ultimately is the one single thing that did more damage to her and did more to help him. And he can make the same argument now. He says, I'm running against the political class's hand-picked candidate who didn't even have to go up to an open convention. She was put in place.
But they're saving democracy.
But by the party that wants to save democracy.
But so that's another word that's been,
I mean, it's kind of comical.
It's a misnomer. Democracy is now a misnomer. I mean, because what they talk about is global democracy.
Yeah.
Okay. And global democracy means knocking down America, taking away its free enterprise system.
Sure does.
You know, freedom of choice. All the things that make capitalism great, the idea that you can come and live the American dream. And that's what this campaign to me was really about. And I really do categorize the American dream as God, family, and country. I mean, those, again, you know, the traditional values of an American family. I mean, my family came here from somewhere else. So did yours, right? I mean, right. We're not indigenous.
Ireland, England, and Scotland, but they came here to Philadelphia. They came legally. And when they came here, they assimilated.
They didn't get a debit card or anything like that.
No debit cards, no
funds,
help,
right?
no,
I mean, I will tell you, back in 1991, I got a letter from Jewish Family Services. They were looking to assimilate people coming from the Ukraine at the time. And as a Jewish person, I said, well, listen, I need to hire somebody in my electronics business. Maybe we'll give it a whirl. So I bring in a guy that's from the Ukraine, and I hired him. I didn't pay him a lot of money, but he told me they had 3 months of help. And after that 3 months, that clock is done, and so is the funding. And they needed to be able to provide a life for him, his 2 children, his wife by the end of 3 months.
Jeez.
I helped make that happen. I couldn't feed his whole family, but I took from my family to give to his.
Right.
I didn't mind doing it because he was helping me grow my business. But that was just the characterization of the difference between now and then. I mean, then, you know, you came here, you assimilate, and really, when you come here legally, you're making an agreement to abide by, if it exists, a social contract with the other Americans,
you
right?
come here to us. Not, you don't just come here. You come here and you come here legally. And when you get here, you assimilate. That's
so
why,
you accept the rule of law in America,
absolutely.
right? You don't come here and try and change the rules based on the country or the religion or whatever.
That's the difference you're seeing now. Yeah.
And I just don't get it. I mean, you know, looking at it from religion, I mean, all right, so Jews came here in about 1790, you know, they assimilated, they wrote the first prayer for the president of the United States, which was George Washington at the time, you know, so these things were going on and we came here and the rule of law is on the Judeo-Christian values of the West, right? And our Bibles are very similar. I mean, 5 books of Moses, you know, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Numbers. Deuteronomy is a book of the Torah that God gave the chosen people, Jews, that has all the laws that we really live by here.
Yeah.
So when you bring somebody that is a believer in that's an Islamist, not someone that is, you know, a different religion, you know, just Muslim, but an Islamist, somebody that wants to live by the rule of law in America based on those laws, that's just not going to fly here.
They invented Islamophobia after September 11th when the towers came down.
Of course.
January 6th was another rise of Islamists in America. They used that to catapult their agenda, and then of course October 7th really helped them catapult it. And look at all the other factions and groups that joined along with it. You know, you got the LGBTQIA plus, you know, saying free Palestine. But if you go,
what does the A stand for now? That's a new letter that was in our notice the other day. What does that stand for?
I don't know what those letters actually stand for. Listen, but I will tell you this, you know, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, you know, I didn't know a whole lot of gay people, but when I did meet gay people, I realized that's just their sexuality. That's just who, you know, that's a sex thing. It has nothing to do with my relationship.
It's their
with them.
personal private life.
I mean, I don't sit there and celebrate heterosexuality. I mean, that's just part of who, you know, what you are, but it doesn't define you. You know, when we talk to my kids about having an identity, we talked about having a Jewish identity, so there wasn't confusion where you came from, how we got here. You know, the rule of law, all the biblical stories. So my children had an identity. If you're lost without an identity, it doesn't really mean that you have to make your sex, sexuality, or gender, you know, the sole source of your identity and what you have to fight for. You have the freedom to be with whoever you want to be with in America.
You know, I tell Eric, look, it's your personal private life.
That's it.
Leave it there.
I mean, close your door when you get home. I mean, why do I have to be inside your house and know what's going on?
I don't need that. I don't need to be there. I don't want to be there. You don't force this on people. Don't force it on children, which is what you're doing. I said, if you just realized it's a matter of privacy. I always thought too, like the gay rights movement back in the late 60s and 70s, they were jumping into like the anti-war protests and ERA and everything, that, you know, they initially asked for privacy. Leave us alone to live our lives the way we think we should live it. Nobody argues with that. Now look at how it's evolved. Look what's happening today. It's a war on people of faith. It's a war on Christianity. I'm coming after your children, and I'm in your face about it. I'm coming after your kids through public school curriculum indoctrination. Do something about it. Oh, you think you're going to come to a school board meeting and complain? I'll label you a domestic terrorist. That's how far the movement has like kind of devolved, if you will.
My advice there is pull your kids. Okay. If you have kids in the public education system, like I said, Trump's going to turn things around. Yes, but you can't wait for the government to come and save you. You need to pull your kids. Go to samsorbo.com, SAMSORBO. This woman has all the details on how to pull your kids, how to make your kids socially engage with their community without being in a public school. I wouldn't want my kids playing with most of the kids in the public school these days or in the same sandbox. These kids have a lot of mental issues. There's something in the water. I don't know what it is.
Is it the fluoride?
I mean, seriously, fluoride. I mean, I've known since I was a kid. Dentist was trying to give me fluoride. I mean, you look up fluoride in one of these old type of books here called Encyclopedia. I mean, it's a product of manufacturing aluminum. Okay. I mean, so they needed something to do with it. Let's put it in the water. Let's put these plates in kids' mouths and give them fluoride. It's carcinogenic. I mean, the only thing more carcinogenic than that is mercury. And they were putting that in our teeth for all those years too, right?
Yeah, right.
Go figure.
I think I have one filling in my mouth. That's it. And then I was a young kid. Yeah, you got your dose of fluoride. And but living in Tabernacle and Medford in Burlington County, we've always had a private well, so we got the Pine Barren water without fluoride, thankfully.
Yeah, right.
But on that note, you know, you do have a kind of an offshoot now, sub-issue, Make America Healthy Again, and it's long overdue. I think our children are obese. They're way too much on iPhones and iPads. That their diets are not good. Our food supply is a little junked up, and we need to get all that straight.
I mean, how about healthcare? I mean, my dad was just in the hospital twice, 2 weekends in a row. Okay. Had this major gastric problem. He had prostate cancer. He's cured. He got 40 treatments of radiation.
Wow.
His oncologist, by the way, an oncologist, when you're having a cancer issue, you know, they don't sit down with their patients and say, you know, Mr. Simpkin, I really think we should sit down to your cancer and talk to it and see if it'll be cured. That's not what happens. They use surgery to cut it out of you. And then they use things like as potent as sunlight to kill all your cells in your body to get rid of it. And that's the type of cancers that we're seeing. And you're not going to sit around and just talk to it and come up with an agreement on that, on some of these things. It just has to go. It has to be eradicated, but it's going to take some time. And speaking of eradication, we talked about deport every illegal. I would like to just touch on what I hope is going to be the future ICE director under this Trump administration. He was the ICE director under the last administration, but let's take a look at what Tom Homan has to say.
Always worth listening to.
Thank you. How you doing? My home state, New York. Where's New York at? Give me a shout. Damn right. Look, for those who don't know me, my name is Tom Homan. I began my career as a Border Patrol agent in 1984. After 34 years, I became the first director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, that actually came up through the ranks. I've worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. Every president I've worked for said they're going to secure the border. President Trump actually did it. He created the most secure border in our history, and that's a stone cold fact. The data proves it, and guess what? He's going to do it again. Under President Trump, we cut illegal immigration by 90%, the lowest level in 45 years. Deportations rose to the highest level ever, including historic numbers of illegal alien gang members and criminals. Most importantly, 4 years under President Trump, we had 13 people we arrested on a terrorist watch list. Joe Biden, 381. And let's remember, we got over 2 million known gotaways. How many of them came from a country that sponsored terrorism? God help us. Biden is the first president in American history to come into office and unsecure a border. Who the hell does that? On their first day in office, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris suspended deportations. They stopped the border wall. They canceled Remain in Mexico. They reinstated catch and release. They proposed amnesty for millions, along with free health care. And now we have a record illegal immigration, a record number of women and children being sex trafficked, a record number of Americans dying from fentanyl, a record number of known as suspected terrorists sneaking across our border. And here's what you need to know. This isn't mismanagement. This isn't incompetence. This is by design, and it's a choice. It's national suicide. But you know what? On November 5th, the American people do have a choice, and they're going to stop this madness. I got a message. As a guy who spent 34 years deporting illegal aliens, I got a message to the millions of illegal aliens that Joe Biden's releasing our country in violation of federal law. You better start packing now. You're damn right. Because you're going home. And I got another message to the criminal cartels in Mexico. You smuggled enough fentanyl across this country to kill 148,000 young Americans. You have killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world combined. And that's when President Trump gets back in office. He's going to designate you a terrorist organization, and he's going to wipe you off the face of the earth. You're done. You're done.
Nothing wrong with those two topics, is there?
Oh, sign me up for all that, will you please? That's,
sign me up. That's what our
yeah.
vote was cast for, right? And that's why
Correct.
we really should have won the popular vote in New Jersey. But since we didn't get out the messaging on this quite well enough,
we don't have the right statewide leadership right now. Each
Right.
county is worried about their own little fiefdom. We don't have a strong chairman. I think Bob Eugen's very weak, in my opinion. And we do.
Let's take them out. Bob Eugen, you're next. You're going to go.
I think what happens in New Jersey, I think our gubernatorial nominee gets to choose who that is after not 25, right?
I believe that is how it works. And our
Yeah.
gubernatorial nominee, if I have anything to do with it, is not going to be Jack Ciattarelli. I can promise you that. He was on the ballot under the after the most draconian lockdowns in American history. Parents' rights were not on the bill. masks, mandates, jabs. He was afraid to talk about it. You can't be afraid. I mean, you have to be strong. You know, we've been living in a suppress versus oppressor society now for a long time, but certainly over the last 3 years, where being strong is bad and being weak is good.
Yeah, it's
But I
time.
can
It's
assure
time
you
for
over
strength.
history,
Yeah.
that's never went well for societies. And what it does is it allows the weak to be controlled and unionized, and then to overthrow the strong. And that's what communists do, and that's how it works. And it's really, really quite pathetic. But one thing standing in our way of communism taking over, and that is our military. Just like in any institution, you know, our military has been diluted. It's been victimized with DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion,
Yeah, absolutely.
wokeness, you know.
Yeah.
But I will say that there is never a day that I see somebody in military uniform that I do not go out of my way to at least go up and thank them for their service. And countless times they say, thank you for your support, buy a cup of coffee. These people have been put in harm's way all the time, even under some disastrous leadership within the military. They're still there. And I want them to know that there is hope and that they have the full support of the American people.
Well, tomorrow's Veterans Day.
We
honor all and remember to take this time to not only wish as you mentioned, a happy birthday to the U.S. Marine Corps today.
Absolutely. Hoorah.
Veterans Day tomorrow for those that have, and for those of you that understand, Veterans Day is for those who have served in a war. We have a Memorial Day for those who have passed away and died giving fight.
It actually shocks me how many people don't understand the difference.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
because civics has not been taught in education for a very long time.
We even have an Armed Forces Day in May that really
we
no
do.
one knows about.
I mean,
And that's
VFW, people don't understand the VFW,
Yeah.
Veterans of Foreign Wars. I mean, it's pretty sad, but it's going to change. And those are the things that we can teach. I mean, I subscribe to a program that sends out things on pamphlets to show your kids, so you can almost, you know, you have to basically deprogram your kids if they're in public school. And these are some of the tools that
Eric,
I use.
I've been saying for a long time that if you're a parent today, or even a grandparent, you know, you are going to have it is incumbent upon you. You have to, not passing, not fleetingly, you have to sit your children down, no iPhones on, and you have to talk to them as you would talk to them about drugs or alcohol. And you have to basically inoculate them as to what they may be exposed to in their academic careers, whether it stops at high school or they're off to college. You need to inject balance because they're not getting anything but one-sided academia and culture, and they don't hear from the parents. Well, we don't want to talk. We will let them find their own way. We don't want to talk. You have to talk to your kids about politics today. You have to. It's imperative. They need to know that when they're being force-fed something that's completely false, baseless, and garbage, they need to be aware that that's what it is.
There's key words that they hear. I talk to my kids every day. I heard towards the end of my kids' high school career, when I was really considering pulling from school, even when they were seniors, they were having just a horrible time in school. Things changed during COVID. You know, that's just what happened.
Oh, yeah.
Kids got crazy. I don't know how else to put it. But my kids would tell me, Dad, not everything has to do with politics. And I said, you're saying that out loud, and I understand and respect that, because to you, it really shouldn't.
Everything
But
is
unfortunately, it
politics.
does. And politics doesn't necessarily mean partisanship either.
Right.
Politics is really defined as things that happen in the public, right? And the things that are happening in public, those policies are determined by party. Okay. But yeah, everything really does come down to politics, especially these days with the heightened sense. Imagine Kamala Harris had she, God forbid, been elected. Imagine her on the world stage representing us and doing our bidding for us. Imagine her going to a foreign country and giving a speech. I mean, I just need to really share one more video.
As long as the teleprompter works, I guess.
I mean,
you
as
might be
long as
able
it
to pull
does, and
off.
most people do really well with the teleprompter. I mean, I get people asking me, "Where's your teleprompter on your podcast?" I don't have a teleprompter.
And I've never used
one.
one.
I talk from my heart, you know, and people
exactly.
that are
Same
passionate
here,
about
yeah.
things can.
Absolutely.
I mean, do I take notes? Yeah. Do I have some notes? Do I need to read an article out loud? Yeah. But when it comes to my thoughts and feelings and my views on things, I mean, I'm pretty entrenched and ingrained in my memory. But let's take a look. Okay, this is when President Trump was president during his term, when he went to Normandy to talk about the veterans at Normandy and celebrate the victory there and how America was when they came home. Take a listen.
President Macron, Mrs. Macron, and the people of France, to the First Lady of the United States and members of the United States Congress, to distinguished guests, veterans, and my fellow Americans, we are gathered here on freedom's altar, on these shores, on these bluffs, on this day 75 years ago. 10,000 men shed their blood and thousands sacrificed their lives for their brothers, for their countries, and for the survival of liberty. Today we remember those who fell and we honor all who fought right here in Normandy. Colonel George Taylor, whose 16th Infantry Regiment would join in the first wave, was asked what would happen if the Germans stopped. Right then and there, cold on the beach, just stopped them. What would happen? This great American replied, "Why, the 18th Infantry is coming in right behind us. The 26th Infantry will come on too. Then there is the 2nd Infantry Division, already afloat, and the 9th Division, and the 2nd Armored, and the 3rd Armored, and all the rest. Maybe the 16th won't make it, but someone will." As they confronted their fate, the Americans and the Allies placed themselves into the palm of God's hand. The men behind me will tell you that they are just the lucky ones. As one of them recently put it, all the heroes are buried here. But we know what these men did. We knew how brave they were. They came here and saved freedom. And then they went home and showed us all what freedom is all about. The American sons and daughters who saw us to victory were no less extraordinary in peace. They built families. They built industries. They built a national culture that inspired the entire world. In the decades that followed, America defeated communism, secured civil rights, revolutionized science, launched a man to the moon, and then kept on pushing to new frontiers. And today, America is stronger than ever before. Seven decades ago, the warriors of D-Day fought a sinister enemy who spoke of a 1,000-year empire. In defeating that evil, they left a legacy that will last not only for 1,000 years, but for all time. For as long as the soul knows of duty and honor, for as long as freedom keeps its hold on the human heart. To the men who sit behind me and to the boys who rest in the field before me, your example will never, ever grow old. Your legend will never die. Your spirit, brave, unyielding, and true, will never die. The blood that they spilled, the tears that they shed, the lives that they gave, the sacrifice that they made, did not just win a battle. It did not just win a war. Those who fought here won a future for our nation. They won the survival of our civilization. And they showed us the way to love, cherish, and defend our way of life for many centuries to come. Today, as we stand together upon this sacred earth, we pledge that our nation will forever be strong and united. We will forever be together. Our people will forever be bold. Our hearts will forever be loyal. And our children and their children will forever and always be free. May God bless our great veterans. May God bless our allies. May God bless the heroes of D-Day. And may God bless America. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I was just saying to Justin during that video, can you imagine Kamala Harris?
No, I can't.
Getting up on the world stage, representing us as Americans and doing our bidding for us.
Well,
I mean,
thankfully, we've been spared that thought.
we have been spared that thought. What's your final words today, Justin Murphy?
Well, I look, there's a lot to take. Obviously, the biggest story in the country and the world right now is President Trump's election. It showed that America is going to commit to its principles of freedom, secure borders, an immigration system that works for the country and the immigrant, free limited government, rule of law. We're taking on new challenges, parental rights, and not only, and just the economy. Energy sector development is going to be huge for the economic well-being of this country. And we have new challenges, and it's got to happen at the state and national level. So I'm happy to be here today with you and all the work that you're putting in and the people that are really grinding at the local level. I mean, I plan on running again in 2026, and there's a lot of work to be done, and we're going to do it. And when we're successful, the game's not over. We have to stand guard and vigilantly over the victories that we've had. If we've won a seat, let's not give it back the next election cycle. Let's look at New Jersey in 2021. We won 7 legislative seats. And in 2023, we gave all 7 right back to the Dems.
They
didn't
come
build
back
on that.
harder, don't they? They come back harder, and we have to know it.
We didn't build on that, and that's the problem. We're lacking that kind of build on mentality leadership. Let's think long term. There's a lot of structural change we can do. Our party's undergoing a lot of changes right now between the county line being questioned with litigation from Andy Kim. And as I mentioned, we got 6 or 7 new chairmen. You have one here in Camden County. Kim is awesome.
She's doing an amazing job. Thank you, Kimberly Stewart. You have done what you said and said what you're going to do, and we appreciate it.
And I know Pat Johnson up in Mercer County. They're doing a fantastic job, and all is going to be good. Good always defeats evil. That's what I always believe and tell people. And when I spoke, I would always tell people not only good defeats evil, but know something about me that America is the most blessed gift that God gave this world, and it's worth fighting for and preserving, and we will do that.
Absolutely. And I like to add that to me, something I say all the time is that where there's light, darkness cannot exist.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And there's some people that I feel had such a tremendous impact on this federal election. Elon Musk standing up, former Democrat, bought X platform, made sure that our First Amendment rights were clearly preserved from a social media standpoint, the only one willing to do so. You had Robert F. Kennedy come along. One of the things that he said in that video I played earlier was that we need to learn to love our children more than we hate each other. And I can't see how anything else could resonate even any stronger than that. And then you had people like Charlie Kirk, who has done an amazing job with getting out the vote for the youth and for the younger people in America. I think he has done an amazing job. Scott Pressler, who delivered us Pennsylvania, he's been out there for 3 years now that I know of. I've met Scott personally. He is a great human being, and he delivered us a victory in Pennsylvania that without which we may not have achieved such a victory.
So let's build on it now. Keep going. Keep going.
And I will tell you, and then there's one more person, Stephen K. Bannon, who they put in prison because they were so scared as being a leader of the MAGA movement. And what does he say? He says it like this, and this is what I believe, and this is what we need to do.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
So I would ask you, everybody that hears this podcast, what is your task and purpose? And if that answer is to save your country, this country will be saved. And you could say the same thing about the state of New Jersey, the counties of Camden, Burlington, wherever you may reside, in every township that you live in. It's all possible. We've all just been witness to what is possible when we all put our heads, our minds together. And it does take money. So I'm going to ask you, find out who to donate to.
Yeah.
Either donate your time, donate your money. And if you're willing and able, please donate both. That's what we need to win. I want to thank everyone for taking their time on a Sunday to listen to what we have to say. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed your time. And I want to thank you, and I want to wish you, your family, nothing but the best. And the best is yet to come. And I'm going to leave you with one more short video on the way out, and that is my views on sex, sexuality, and gender. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless your families, and God bless America.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Let me explain something to you, folks. Okay, there's two sexes, male and female. That's it. There's no such thing as gender. Gender is a socially constructed thing, that how you identify. And there's unlimited personality. So if you identify as something different than your biological sex, clearly it's part of your personality because it's internal. It's part of your mind. It's part of your soul, but it's not how your body was created. And that's okay. If you feel different, I know plenty of tomboys. I've known plenty of effeminate men, but they didn't say that if I take these pills, there's no such thing as a puberty blocker. They're hormones. So if you're a boy, they're giving you girl hormones. If you're a girl, they're giving you boy hormones and then doing surgeries on you. These are children. They're making decisions on their own. And they're taking the parent out of the equation because they don't need your permission. They don't need to tell you what's going on with your child because they know what's best for your child. They know better than you. That's what they believe. Amount of information I know.